Anything else?
Good morning.
I know the back of that.
Wow. Welcome to Sunflower, and I think it's fall of Sunflower. Thanks for coming. Please stand if you're able to. The pledge. Flag of the United States of America. To the Republic. Okay, it has now been 1 year since I have been president of Sunflower Veterans Club. It's been an honor for me to do this. I wanted to give you what I'm going to call a state of the club address. During the last year, our club expanded from 5 board members to 13. We've enjoyed speakers from several different areas. Sunflower's own author, Armand Houghton. Kelly Hughes presented about his experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan. Missing American Project was here. They are the unclaimed remains. They're buried in the cemetery. We learned about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, done by a nonprofit group of Phoenix, and is recommended and encouraged by Department of Veterans Affairs. Fairly new thing, limited content. We heard from the Interfaith Community Services people of programs they have available to veterans. We heard from Karen Kuzenberg, who is the founder of Women's Lawyers. This program to help female veterans that are in crisis. Heard from Jennifer Kowski, who is the director at the VA hospital. We heard from Bob Slocum about the Brown program. How to do more volume. How do I do that?
Closer.
Yeah. That's how you do that. Okay. And we heard from Julie Waters, what's on my switches program for disabled American veterans. They take them up to various fishing spots, all expenses paid. Many of them outside of Arizona to help them deal with their PTSD and other issues. Probably the most memorable event of the year was our performances by Manhattan Dolls. It was a concert that we did on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and it was hosted jointly with the Activities Committee. It was a great day of celebration. In addition to the charities already mentioned, we and the entire community of Sunflower have continued to make substantial grocery donations to the Patriots Pantry. It's a resource for food insecure veterans, and it is managed by the nutritionists down at the VA hospital. Another one of our primary beneficiaries is the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 4. They do about everything an agency can do to support our veterans in need, getting gas to get to work, helping with bills for maybe light, rent, whatever. And several other beneficiaries have included Esperanza and Ancalante, Old Pueblo Community Services, both of whom help veteran homelessness. The Veteran Service Center at the VA has mental health resource programs. It's not actually at the VA, but it's a function of the volunteer services there. And there's VA homeless and caregiver programs, as well as Veterans Helping Veterans organization. In total, also I forgot Honor Flight. We sent donations to Honor Flight to help restart the program after COVID. And I'm happy to announce that we actually have 2 veterans here, I think, that are going on this next Honor Flight. So that's exciting, and that's going to happen sometime in April. In total, our club made monetary donations to these various agencies of approximately $14,000. Additionally, Memorial Day, Flag Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day placed over 500 flags all along Sunflower Ridge and Sunflower Park Drive. Many folks from the club and from the community help us put up those flags, and those people also help us put up flags on the graves at the Arizona Veterans Cemetery, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. If you haven't seen them, not here, but at the Veterans Cemetery, you really need to do that. We hosted 4 annual fundraisers: cookout in April, barbecue in October, the chow line potluck in November, and also the Manhattan Dolls counts in there. We organized and presented the annual Veterans Day ceremony at the flagpole in front, and we probably ate the most donuts ever on our patio after that ceremony, because it was really a beautiful day. As you can see from all of this, we've had a very busy year. I just stand up here and talk, but the real work gets done by so many others from the board and volunteers from the club and from the community. We need to give credit where credit is due. I'm going to introduce each board member, and I would like them to come forward so that I can get the entire board up here. And I would appreciate it if you just hold your applause until we named everyone. Our executive board is, in addition to myself, Carol Taylor, Vice President, David Van Ostall, who is not here this morning. His sister passed away yesterday, and he's on his way out of state. Gordon Barron, treasurer. Larry Shire. Technology. Our at-large board is in alphabetical order: Dan Cook, who did our Veterans Day program; Steve Morris, who helps with membership and technology; Don Seymour, who works with the Fallen Veteran Program; Jimmy Strock, who chairs our cookout. She is in Texas vacationing. You know, I think I have something to learn from them, but I vacation in Maine in the winter. Bruce Schwartz, part of our membership and technology. Dick Tu, who is does a lot of cooking and programs and stuff, but he's also our expert on logo wear. And Bob Whalen from the Fallen Veterans Program. Retiring from the board this year, Tom Shample in the corner there. Tom, if you just like to stand. And Tim Meenan, who has moved to Texas. So Tim, are you someplace? If we could have somebody just say, sure, back. Maybe we need to double up here. Put the short ones in the front. There we go. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Sure, we'll end up on our website at some point in time. I wish that it had been the entire board, but unfortunately, two people were not here this morning. So with that, we get to move on to 2023. Already started off with a benefit concert by the rest of the Spurs. And for those of you who saw it, it was a fabulous event. Also, our board is lucky to have a volunteer step forward and join our board, Sharon Bender. She is going to be the representative to legal processes, to the DAV, and to Senator Kelly. Thank you. As you can see, could not have done this without the board. Next thing I need to do is thank Mark Stein and Dennis Abrams for our generous display of donuts this morning. Mark?
You didn't tell me I was gonna have to say anything this morning, which is, good leadership. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody because it was 6+ years ago. I called Tom Shambo and I was trying to get into the sunflower community. I'm a financial advisor. I had an office at the time at Canyon Community Bank. I don't know if anybody knew where that was, but it's no longer there. So my office is at La Cholla, Nina. And but at the time I was trying to, get clients in the sunflower community, financial advisor, retirees. It's a good connection. Boy, it is hard to get into this community. This place is on lockdown. And I don't know if you guys remember Sam, who used to sit in the front. Man, she was a bulldog. Couldn't get in here. So finally, somebody said, call Tom Shambo. He likes donuts. So Tom, I called him and I think his line was, I said, can I bring donuts to your veterans club? And I think his line was, I'm a retired cop. And yeah. And I'll be honest with you, 6.5 years ago, I was only planning to bring donuts one time. And then Tom said, we'll see you again next month. And it turned into this. And I tell you what, it's a great joy for me to be able to do this for all of you. Richard made a comment about, how many clients you get from this? And I told him, not many. And there's a few in this crowd who are my clients. Please talk to them. They're great. But I don't do this for the money. I don't do this for anything. I've created a lot of great friendships here and spend a lot of time here and just love this group. So not about that. It's about, and you don't want to ever be the guy that says, or be known as the guy who stopped bringing donuts to events. So you've got me for a long time. So there you go.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, I need to recognize our guest liaisons that are here this morning. From Senator Mark Kelly's office, Arlette Rios. There in the front. From DAV Chapter 4, David Morales, who typically comes to the meeting. Carol, also from the DAV office. And unfortunately, Nick Drake had to cancel at the last minute. Prop 130 is in a state of flux. So rather than pass out incorrect information at this point, all he could really tell us was that it is primarily for low-income veterans. And that's as far as he would go. He couldn't even define what low income meant. So he's not with us this morning. I can tell you that once the speaker starts, the liaisons will be meeting with individual people that have said they wanted to see these liaisons. They have a list of names of people that have contacted me. They will be calling you from that kitchen door there, and you will be meeting them in the craft room privately. Okay? Kind of like the doctor's office, you know, they come out. So just excuse yourself from wherever you're located and make your way over to the door, and they will meet with you. Okay, with that, Bob, I'll turn the program over to you.
Thank you. It's our time to recognize a fallen veteran, and I wish you would all stand. Veteran that we want to recognize is John Bernardi, U.S. Air Force from 1952 until 1973. His family is recognized in the back, and we want to recognize the families of that fallen veteran. If you would all face the flag tab. I also want to add to all of this something that we are all trying to do, and that is to increase knowledge to veterans and veterans' families about benefits. And what we have found is that many times families are not aware of what they can do to seek information about benefits. And so that's why we have people here today who are going to be answering questions for those who want information. And it's good to see so many family members here. In addition, we have information in the front for any of you who want additional information. In addition to that, I want to bring up one additional resource, and that is we've been trying to focus some additional attention on survivors. And what we have found is that the church up on Silver Bell and Wade, Our Lady of the Desert Redemptorist Church, offers a grief sharing support program. And it's a 13-week program. It's non-denominational, but it's offered through that particular church. And what you would do if you want to join that program is to contact Our Lady of the Desert Redemptorist Church and get information about their what's called the Grief Share Support Group. And I want that information out to all of you so that any of you who are having difficulty with grief as a result of a lost loved one can make some contact there. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Bob. One additional piece of information. If you type in on your web browser, grief share, one word, they have websites that talks about the program and gives other information about it. So feel free to use that as a resource. And with that, I get to introduce our speaker today, It's the same speaker that we had last month, so I'm not going to go into a lot of background. But David, you've got 40 minutes. Charge on in here and give us everything you know about potential benefits for VA. Well,
And Dennis Abram.
I'm David Clark.
My name is David Clark. I'm the Visual Impairment Services Team Coordinator at the VA Medical Center here in Tucson. And I work with legally blind veterans and what we call access visually disabled veterans, visually impaired veterans, all the way on up to totally blind. And part of my job duties as a VIS coordinator is working with VA benefits and resources, largely because my population of veterans can't see. And so it's been traditionally under the VIS coordinator would help with benefits. The brochures I have today, I brought some brochures about our blind rehab center. It's a world-class blind rehabilitation center. And this brochure is contact information about our outpatient programs, VIS coordinators and blind rehab outpatient specialists at the VA. And with that, I will turn to the benefits overview panel discussion. Go ahead and change the slide. So I'm going to talk about VA benefits and services. I'm going to do it really quick. And so I can't do a comprehensive overview of everything. So I selected some slides. Hopefully I'll get through them all. I'm going to start out with the more important ones first, and then go to as many services that go along with those benefits as I can. Go ahead and switch slide. So this doesn't fit on okay. So the first large benefit is a non-service connected pension. And it's basically a monetary support benefit awarded to permanently and totally disabled low-income veterans with 90 days or more active military service of which occurred during the war era. Change slide. So pension is a tax-free financial benefit paid to qualifying veterans. The purpose of the pension is to provide supplemental income to achieve minimum pension threshold. The amount of award depends on current income and presence of dependents, spouse, and children. So these things here are links. So your technology guru here can share this with you. He's going to put it up on a site. And actually, I've provided a lot of extra information besides this panel discussion. That if you want to really go into depth on some of the benefits, you can do it, because we're not going to get through everything today. So those are links for a pension fact sheet, a VA form to file for it. Next slide, please. So I've cut down this pension chart, special monthly pension chart, quite a bit, because it's a monster looking at all of it. So this kind of cleans it up. There's 3 levels of pension. There's a basic pension that we just talked about, and then there's housebound, and then there's a dependents, not to be confused with service connected housebound. And then the tenants, will get to that in a minute. So if you look on the top line, basic, veteran, no dependents, $14,753. What that means is, let's say the veteran has receiving Social Security of $10,000. The VA will pay $4,773 to get them up to that level. If he doesn't have enough quarters, didn't get any Social Security because he's working under the table or something, then they'll pay the full amount of $14,753 for just the veteran. Veteran and one dependent, which is usually a spouse, wife, is a little bit more. And then with every additional dependent, let's say they had a dependent child that they're taking care of, that's the amount that it would increase. Now, these charts are monsters when you look them up on the internet. They're long, because they'll go one parent, two parents, on and on. So I've cleaned it up a bit. Housebound, for me, means, let's say a veteran is 2,200 with a visual field of 20 degrees, and they're legally blind. That's the definition of legal blindness. And if they're where they can't get transportation, and they're basically confined to their home, that's housebound. And so a little bit more money. Aid and attendance for me, and I'm working with a veteran, 5/200s or 2800s visual acuity, or a 5-degree field of vision. But also, you could be literally housebound. You couldn't get out of the house because you're crippled. Could be if on aid and attendance, you need assistance, bathing, grooming, and dressing. So there's, depending on the level of disability, there's 3 different levels. Now, this is a pension, it's not compensation. Any veteran that has qualifications on income and war era and disability can qualify for this. They don't have to be service connected. That's on the pension side. Think of it as on the left hand. On the right hand, we're going to get to in a minute, which would be compensation. Next slide, please. So you must have at least 90 days with at least 1 day during wartime. This is the war eras here. World War II, Korean conflict, Vietnam War, Gulf War. That becomes important because it's got to be war era. You don't have to be in combat. You don't have to be, like, let's say you didn't have to be deployed to Vietnam if you were war era during Vietnam to qualify for this benefit. You must be at least 65 years old, and that would get you to the pension. Then the disability levels, remember the housebound dependents, that's the level of disability to get you to that. You must have income and states under a set financial threshold. This is a link that can give you an idea what that would be, because it depends on your locality. And I mean, if you have a $2 million house and you're applying for a basic benefit like this, you could sell your house and have $1 million and live pretty good. So anyway, next slide, please. So it's called the aid and attendance housebound part of this pension. It's called special monthly compensation again. For my guys, we're got 5/200s or 2800 or a visual field of 5 degrees. Housebound of 2200 visual acuity. That's corrected 20 degrees. Or like I said, it can also be because you are in factual need for, say, aid and attendance, bathing, grooming, dressing, and other things. And housebound, you can't get out of your house. So there's a link for enhanced special pension. There's VA forms there that you link to, and you can get to that. Next slide. Okay, this, you can't see it, but we're on to compensation. Compensation is a monetary benefit paid to veterans who are disabled by injury, aggravation during active military service. That also includes presumptives, which I'll get to in a minute. Next slide, please.
Frederick Wright. Frederick Wright. Right. You're a pen. Baldwin. G-A-B-L-D-O-N. Double.
So here's one of those charts again that I've cut down and cleaned up. Basic compensation rates. Now, most of you guys have heard of this. So you get compensated at different levels with 10% increments, 10, 20, 30, 40, on up to 100%. Under that is the dollar amount for veteran, and spouse, for veteran, spouse, and one child. Then it goes on to 12 kids and, I took that out of there because that just gets confusing. But it goes up to 100%. What most people don't know is you can be more disabled than 100%. Next slide. So this is what they call special monthly compensation rates. It's also known to a lot of VSOs as housebound and aid and attendance, not to be confused with pension, aid and attendance, and housebound. So it's paragraphs in the law under Title 38 U.S. Code. And so you have L and a half, M and a half, N and a half, OP, R1, R2, and S is house. So veteran alone shows you the amount. Down here on the paragraph L, you can see it's quite a bit more money than the 100%, $4,500 a month. And on the end here, well, like an R2 is $10,000. And I've got some veterans that have that are blind and also hearing. Get to organs in a minute, but then veteran and spouse, veteran and one child, each additional child. They don't give you much for children, but okay. So, and then up here is K award. You can get 2 K awards, which is loss of use of an organ. So like if you lose one eye, they'll give you $128 on top of what you're rating. And a Q award is for TB. So TB you can never get rid of. I'll get to questions at the end. But go ahead.
Is this, do these compensations have to be service related?
Yes, these are service compensation is service connected. Let me say that again. Service connections are compensations to the level of disability incurred while you're in service. The non-service connected that I was talking about with VA pension, you just have to be war era, make a certain amount of income, and so on. And so this is when you're beyond, when you're really disabled. And so, for example, I got a blind vet. He's got no light perception in both eyes. Nothing. Can't see anything. Okay, that gets you, just for him, it gets him to end. And he's got a wife, so it's 58, 59 a month. Then he's 70%, 70% disabled for his hearing. I mean, 70% hearing loss. So guess where he's at? And this is because of the special sensory ratings that they do. He's at $10,567 a month. But he can barely hear and he can't see. So that's an example, but it's also people that have lost limbs, other things. Next slide, please. So special monthly compensation summary. The higher payment beyond 100% for loss or loss of use with specific veterans and service-connected disabilities, loss or loss of use of a hand or foot, immobility of a joint, paralysis, loss of sight of an eye, only seeing light, loss or loss of use of reproductive organ, complete loss or loss of use of both buttocks, deafness of both ears, no air or bone conduction, inability to communicate by speech, loss of percentage of tissue from single breast bone, breast from mastectomy or radical or radiation treatment. See, VBA uses the term aid and attendance and housebound for the special monthly compensation. That's why a lot of the VSOs, that's what they say too. Next slide, please. So compensations based on injuries, summarizing again, just want to make sure people know. Based on injuries or illness incurred while in service, that could be presumptive conditions like age support. I'll get to that. We have time, no wartime period requirement may qualify for special monthly compensation. In other words, if you're hurt, Doesn't matter if it's wartime or not. Based on extended service connected disability. Pension, on the other hand, financial needs based, its income and assets must be over 65 or older for the basic benefit, must have served during the wartime period. Next slide, please. So there's some interesting stuff here. Individual unemployability. Let's say you're only at 60% for vision. 60%, that's it. You're blind, but you're at 60%. That's all they're giving you. Well, that would qualify you to get compensated at the rate of 100% based on individual unemployment, because at 60%, they figure you're totally disabled. And so,
Let me fix this. Okay, there you go.
or another way of doing it. Or another way of doing it, you can be 40%, let's say for a hip condition. And then your knee goes out because your hips misaligned, so you get 20% service connected for that, and then your ankle goes out. And so this leg is pretty much just dangling. So if at least one of those things is 40% and the total is 70% in a line of succession, then if it's connected somehow together in a body system, then you can also be considered for individual unemployment. Next slide. Okay, that's paired organs. Paired organs. Let's say I lose my eye in service. Okay, I can still see in this one. I can drive, I can do anything, had a career, had kids, had a life, everything after service, great. Then I develop glaucoma when I get older. And I lose this eye. Okay, the glaucoma didn't happen in service. It's not service connected. But they're going to pair the organs. They're going to pair this. They're going to say, well, if you still had that other eye that you lost in service, you could still see. So what we're going to do is match that non-service connected eye as if it was service connected. And they'll give you at that rate. Well, if you lost this side and there's no light perception, and then later on glaucoma takes this one, then you could be paid at that end rate, just like somebody that lost both eyes altogether during service. Next slide. Auto grant. Though that's old, that's a 2021 rate. That's about $24,000. At the end of this slide, I've got these programs of the monetary amount, true amount listed. I didn't get to that. It's a financial assistance in form of one-time grant to buy a car. Do you know my blind vets that are service connected for blindness get cars? Now they better not be driving. But they get $24,000 for the purchase of a car. Somebody else needs to drive, but they get that. And so if you're 70% service connected for vision loss, you can get a grant. You got to apply for it, and it takes a while, and the VA is a bureaucracy. It takes a while, but you can get it. Next slide, please. These are services. I'm on the services. Depends on where you're at on that compensation level, whether you qualify for this. Clothing allowances. Let's say I lost a leg and I've got an artificial leg and I tear up my pants and stuff. And that's expensive. So they'll give, there's other things too. You know, if guys have, you know, a colostomy bag or something like that, they ruin the clothes or something like that. They give yearly stipends to buy clothing. That's what that is. But next slide. Educational assistance, you've heard of this. But you have up to 45 months of education. Let's say a guy gets 100% all of a sudden. He gets it. Yay, he gets a service connection. And so he's got kids of that age that are going to school, or maybe his wife wants to. Well, they can have up to 45 months educational support. There's more to that, And I've actually, put in a couple, there's something known as Quick List in here. In volume 1, volume 2 of these benefits that he can share with you. But I'm not going to go into that right now, so it goes into much more detail if you want to. Next slide. Vocational rehab, they're going down to 10%, used to be 30%. A veteran getting, let's say they lose his job. I just had a guy recently who was a surgical technician and lost his sight, can't do that anymore. He might, if he's service connected at 10% or higher, the VA will pay for both rehab, they'll pay for schooling, they'll pay for tuition, they'll pay for everything. For that person, if he's eligible, otherwise, you know, I mean, 12 years from the date received notice, or from the, you know, notice from the service connection, notice from separation of service. And this, I've got some links to that that explains a little bit more if you're interested. Next slide, please. HISA grant, home improvement structural alterations grant. It's about $6,800 for a service-connected disability, $2,000 for non-service connected. They'll modify your house for a disability. And that usually goes through prosthetics. And for a service-connected veteran, what they'll do is, let's say you have a non-service connected disability, you're in a wheelchair, but it's not the service-connected disability. Okay, we'll widen so you can get into the bathroom, and that'll cost you $2,000. I'm so sorry. So that's just the door. And so that leaves $4,800.
Vanessa.
Sure. That leaves $4,800 that you can use for the service connection. Next slide. VA life insurance. I said it's usually $10,000. You see this to $30,000, but you can have the first $10,000, so it's really $40,000 that you can get now with the VA. They have another program where they used to have waivers for if you were service connected, but that program is going to end, and this program takes its place, but it's a lot more money. But they opened up the eligibility for more people. And there's some links there if you're interested. Next slide, please. Special adapted housing. Let's say I have a veteran who is 5'2", visual acuity and service connected for it. And so they may, it used to be 2101B, they could adapt your house. This is from regional office, not from the hospital. But now they're up here. They get money from up there. They usually don't give you the full $100,000. About 150 of them a year that they give the full $100,000 to. A lot of my vets didn't need any adaptations. You don't need adaptations for a house for blindness, but they used to put that money toward the purchase of the home. And what they do is they give you partial rate. And I didn't put the partial rate on there. It's an emergency type loan. But in that quick list that I put in, that if you guys want to link, get that when he puts it out on your newsletter website, you can look at it, and it also one of those volumes and stuff that'll tell more information about it. And then this is for physically disabled, loss of both hands, severe burns, breathing injuries, the 2101B. It's changed a bit from the way it used to be. Next slide, please. Chant VA is part of the VA that pays for the wife to get medical. And usually that's on the outside. And if you're military retired, you're service connected, they usually go through TRICARE. And there's some links there about that. Next slide, please. Catastrophically disabled. I do this with my legally blind vets. A vet is legally blind. He may have went to the VA in the past. He's non-service connected, let's say, and he can't get in the VA because he makes too much money. And And that's unfortunate. But if a person is legally blind, I can submit that I report to the chief of staff. He's declared catastrophically disabled, money then is no object. They don't look at it. So I get people catastrophically disabled and they're eligible for everything, pretty much. That's it, definitely. Next slide, please. Beneficiary travel, this tells you how much they'll pay if you qualify. You have to be at least 30% service connected, or you have to be under a certain income. They means test for that. Even when you're on a VA pension, they'll still means test you for that, and which is ridiculous, but they do. And so there's VA travel, and there's also mileage. At 30% or higher, you're eligible for that. Next slide. Special mode transportation. Let's say you got a guy that can't go in a regular car, so it needs an ambulance or something. They'll transport them. Next slide. Caregiver support program. There's two different programs. Any veteran is eligible for the basic program, and that's support. That's support, counseling, stuff like that. The other program that a lot of you've heard about is where the spouse can get paid to take care of the veteran. But there are very rigorous controls on that, or eligibility. You cannot, the veteran cannot actually bathe, groom, and dress himself, or maybe totally out of his mind, or something like that. Something very dependent, not instrumental activities, daily living, cooking, cleaning, those things that they don't count. They count basic stuff to bathe, groom, dress, and so on. But there is a caregiver support program. If you call the VA and just ask for it, you can get the coordinator and they can tell you more. And there's also a link there for local caregiver support. Next slide, please. Veterans organizations. This is, I've got a sheet here. This sheet is just inadequate. It has all the different VSOs at the VA, but only Marine Corps League is working right now. And so that's a misnomer right there. Now there's other VSOs. I think you've got one here from last time. And somebody's doing that work. And there is Arizona State Service Commission that is part of Arizona. They have professionals that do that. So you can find veterans benefits like regional office, like the one in Phoenix. You can find out the location. First link, second link, directory of service organizations. That can be DAV, VFW, Order of Purple Heart, and so on. Vietnam veterans. Blind Veterans Association. They do it from Washington, D.C. for the whole nation. Not really efficient, but Blind Veterans Association, that's what they do, because they have people trained all across the country. They have a problem. DAV, link there. It'll show you the local, when you go in, it'll show you the local people here. Next slide. For more information on benefits, here's another link. The VA.gov Veterans Benefits Administration home. There's more benefits stuff that would just boggle your mind. Summary of VA benefits, all those are links right there. In fact sheets. Next slide. Toxic substances. Now I didn't go into Agent Orange. This is more addressing that probably burn pits like that from the recent war. But you know, anything, bikini, atolls, where they blew up atomic bombs and had people standing on ships to watch. Not a good idea. Agent Orange. And also Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed Camp Lejeune, you have certain problems. But okay, sir, you know about that. The PAC program is a new way they are organizing the primary care teams into PACs. And so when you call your PAC team, you might not get the doctor. You probably would never get the doctor anyway, because they're busy. But you get the RN or you get anybody on that team, they can help. So they're organized together. Each primary care team, like a Ocotillo or Sororo or whatnot, are then organized into smaller teams called PACs.
This has to do on sick.
They will,
He's talking about the PACT Act.
the PAC Act, yeah. And the PAC Act has a lot to do with the bird pits and stuff like that. The PAC Act, that is, as opposed to PAC team, sorry. Yeah, PAC Act, sorry. I'm at the VA locally, so I'm thinking on a different level. Okay, and so, that is also, it can automatically service, they consider those things presumptive. So if you have cancer as a result of this toxic exposure, or if you have diabetes, you're automatically service connected for that condition, any resulting conditions from that. For example, you have diabetes at 20%, and then you get diabetic retinopathy and you're no light perception because you've had diabetic retinopathy and your retina's hemorrhage all over the place and you can't see. Well, guess what? You're service connected for that too. If your kidneys go out, you're service connected for that. Diabetes is horrible when it gets out of control, but that's the type you automatically get service connected. You don't have to prove you were there, and prove you have to be hurt while in service. All you have to do is prove you were boots on the ground where that happened for those things, for those presumptive conditions. Next slide. Section 1151. That is if the VA screws up. I hate to mention this, but if the VA screws up and it's out of negligence or carelessness, they service connect you and you can sue for up to $100,000, both. Used to be you had to choose between the two. Now you get both. And so, enough said. You can, next slide. Military retirees, 20 years of active military service. Okay, if you, let's say you've retired at 20 years, but you're non-service connected, you make a bunch of money, you probably won't qualify for the VA, you know, because they treat you like any other veteran. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. But there's some other benefits that you qualify for, like SBP for certain veterans that have survivors benefit plan, commissary exchange privileges, what you would have if you're in the military. Next slide, please. This is different. Chapter 61, medical return. Let's say you were in service and you had to medically retire. Different story. Then you're service connected usually, and then you're qualified for all kinds of stuff. And that would usually give you a rating from a 1 through 3 on priority status. I'll get to that in the next slide. Returning service members, we have a transition of, I don't know what it is, 3 years? What does it say? 5 years. 5 years, 180-day dental benefit. So somebody just getting out of service would have all these benefits, regardless how much money they make for 5 years. Next slide. Women veterans. We have a women veterans program that has everything that you can get in a regular hospital, medical practice, you can get in the VA. There's a number for that. There's a link for that. Caregiver support line for that. Next slide, please. Homeless veterans. We have a homeless veteran. We had a guest speaker who's talking about that. Probably did a lot more in depth than I'm going to do today. But you know, getting people homes, and they'll transition people in, usually from right on the street to temporary housing to permanent housing. And there's all the contact information and link. Next slide, please. Active duty service members. We have a person that's a transition specialist that actually works with active duty service members. We can get them into blind rehab, we can do stuff while they're still in service. Next slide. Okay, this is a listing of the actual amounts that I was saying before, like the HISA grants. Sorry.
Frederick Wright. Frederick Wright. Okay, this is the end of the list. Does anybody want help? Come on back.
It was on the list, but no one's called me. Pay list.
Okay, well, after this guy, you need next again. When it comes. Okay, well, you can come down.
So you got the HISA grants again, the monetary amounts, special adapted housing, beneficial travel, clothing allowance. Medal of Honor pension, they've got that too. It's a guaranteed level amount for somebody that has Medal of Honor. That would be pitiful, by the way. They should get a lot more in my mind. Next slide. And then we go into, okay. DIC. I'm not going to go into all the special rates or anything, but DIC is death indemnity compensation. This is for the widow of a person that's like 100% service connected, or if you died as a result of the service connection. And I'm summarizing it quick. There's more to it than that, but it's a lot less money than a lot of the 100% service connected guys get, but it's better than say SBP, because you can convert from SBP to the DIC and not have to pay premiums anymore. And if you're in service, you get this paid for. Concurrent receipt and combat related receipt used to be you'd have to choose between being 100% service connected and getting your pension from the military if you spent 30 years, 20 years. Well, that's BS. So they changed the law. And so you can get concurrent receipt, which means they gradually phased it in until it was up to 100% for both. So you can get your military pension rates and you can also get your service connection too now. And then they have combat related pay. They'll do that. The only thing is, like, one of my veterans was, shot through the head and he lost his eyesight. Well, they give you concurrent pay, but it's not very much because it's dependent on rank and it's dependent on how long you serve. Well, he was in the military like 15 months and got shot. So that he didn't get much money, but it was, but then other people have served for 30 years and that happens. And so you can get combat related. Well, if it's 30, you can retire, but they might serve 15, 18, 20, up to 20 years. And that way they get compensated from both the military and the VA. Next slide, please. So there's priority status groups. Group 1 is 100%, 50 to 100%. Group 2 is 30 to 40%. Group 3 is 10 to 20%. Bring that up. Priority group 4 is people making under a certain amount of money usually, but also when I get somebody catastrophically disabled, they become at least a priority status 4, or they get the benefit of not having to pay co-pays anymore. Because the only person that doesn't pay co-pays is priority group 1 for meds. The rest of the guys have to pay co-pays for at least meds. But as you go down the line, if you're like a 7 or something like that, you might pay for inpatient, outpatient care. I'll get to that. Go ahead and move it up. Priority group 5 and 6, a little bit more money. And then 7, a little bit more money. And then 8 is where you get in the danger zone. If you applied for benefits before 2003, they were letting all the veterans in for a while. Everybody. And they had 30,000 people waiting on the waiting list to get services in Florida, and they had to quit. They couldn't do it. So they went back to, they have 8A, B, C, D, depending on that kind of a qualification. And so that's what you're looking at when you're trying to get in the VA. They go by, if you're non-service connected, they look at how much money you receive. And so they'll ask for an income tax return as well as your DD 214, and you pull up a 1010 easy application for VA services if you've never done so in the past. And if any of you are interested, if you need some assistance, there's my number right there to get in. I've gotten a lot of blind veterans in, because this blind rehab center is the only game in town, really. And so I get people that have lots of money, but they don't see, and they can't get services out in the great wide world because they don't exist. Not like we have. They're savvy here in town, but the programs are set up more for youth than adults, older people. Next slide. 7 and 8, and this goes into the, so you got A, B, C, D, E, G. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is. Next slide. Non-VA benefits and service, I'm not going to go over because that's usually what I do with like talking books, for example, for the blind. I'm not going to go into that today. There are, if you're 100% service connected, they do have disability plates that you can get just for an administrative fee. I'll mention that. But there's other things like golden access passport for people of a certain age or disability. But I'm not going to go into that today because that's not what they were asking me to do. So I've got all kinds of data on here for you guys. So go in and look at it. And it gets into the weeds, really. If you want to, you can get into the weeds with this stuff, but it's pretty neat stuff. And if you have any other questions, you can always call me. And my stuff is up here with a brochure about SWBRC, Southwestern Blind Rehab. If you come across a vet who's vision impaired, and my brochure there has my picture on it, my address, phone extensions, and that with that, I'm done. Is there any questions?
Diabetes.
Yeah. Right. You sure can. It's your VSO. If you've got diabetes, insulin dependent. Have to be insulin dependent. There's a catch. Insulin dependent diabetes, because it's a different type. Supposedly. So anyway, I'm not the one that makes these laws. I just know that. There's some good stuff in here, and I'll take credit for that, but not the bad stuff.
David, is there any veterans?
Not any veteran,
Oh,
100% service community. Either 100% or the veteran has had to die of service-connected disability. Yeah, there's a lot more detail in here. And in those other books that I showed, they're on hyperlinks. So when you go to, there's a volume 1 is a quick list. And quick list is like just quick answers. Like if I'm looking up something, I want to know how much it costs or how much you get paid. So I can tell the veteran real quick. And there's hyperlinks that go right to the page and I can tell them. And then there's a return key on the bottom in blue. I can go back to the index real fast. And there's a volume 1 and a volume 2 that go over the pension and compensation benefits. And the other one is all the special programs. And you can do that, just control, boom, you're there. And of course, it's a VA hospital, they use PCs, not Apple, it might be different with Apple, I don't know. The control, boom, you're there. And it's got page numbers too and stuff like that. You need to take a look at it because it's interesting. I wouldn't have time to go over that today. It would take me like 4 days to go over it. Any other questions? Well, remember about Southwestern Blind Rehab. We get people from all over the United States, even though the catchment area for it is the Southwestern United States. And it is the blind rehab center in the world. That's it, simply. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, David. You got something out of that. Okay, time for our business meeting, treasurer's report.
Did everybody get this?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right, we'll see y'all.
Good morning, treasurer's report for the month ending in February. We had a beginning balance of $4,325.82. On top of that, we had deposits of 577, which was 500 Roger Daggett last month at 77. And we had 270 and $140 deposits from the musical performance, Rusty Spur. That was $987 in deposits. We had a expense of $427.20 for the no, this is for the the $427 was reimbursement for a flight for one of the Rusty Spur guys to come here and perform. We had a donation of $1,000 to Old Pueblo, and we had a $107.62 expenditure for Patriots Pantry. We also made a donation of $300 to the Sunflower Quilters Club, who are making lap warmers, things to keep vets comfortable. We have one outstanding check from April for the Healing Waters. They haven't cashed it yet, so that's still outstanding. Which leaves us a closing balance of $3,178. This month, today, Roger Daggett gave me another check for $700. So it's big, and thank Roger for that. Also in recognition, Schaefer team and Tim Water are here, who are constantly sources of benefit to our club, and we appreciate that. Patriots Pantry, again, we started with $1,500 and we're now at $522.11 left of that $1,500. We still going to donate to Patriots. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I asked Richard if I could talk, because I'm afraid that I'm gonna be in there and come on, it's gonna be empty. Okay, couple of things have changed to the positive. We now have 17 certified service officers, 17. I don't think no other tracks have that now. Plus, when you go see us, you're not gonna get a beer, you're not gonna get a hamburger, you're gonna get service. The other thing is, was made aware that we're the only game in town. Chapter 18 has no service off, chapter 28 has no service off. So in Tucson, the greater Tucson, if you want to file disability, you have to see chapter. That's all I needed to say was that we're the only game in town, and we're right behind the Bisbee Breakfast Cafe. And don't be afraid to see us, we're there to help you. We also have 3 women service officers, so if you have a, military sexual trauma, we got 3 women that can help you. So, for the women. So we're there to help, and only to help.
What are your days of service, days and hours?
We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 3.
Need an appointment?
It will be helpful. Any questions before I go back in? Thank you.
Anybody else needs the EAV potential one? Anyone else because it's available? Okay. Old business, just giving you the results of the Rusted Spurs concert. It was a huge success. Everybody just had so much fun. And our total profit on the event was just under $1,400. So really need to thank Herb Hamill, who was a resident here, his wife, and third person for their trio who came in from Texas for that concert. Okay, new business. We are starting to work on our spring cookout. Date for it is April 15th. Tickets go on sale for the first time March 27th. The cost for the event is $15 per ticket. That gives you 2 sandwiches and all the homemade sides that we normally have. So watch for that coming out in the communicator, and we will be talking about that as it gets closer. We're just in the process of starting that. Also, I received, if somebody would like to pass these out to the road, please. The Wreaths Across America is going to have a exhibit here in the Sunflower parking lot on the 15th of March. And the exhibit is open, will be open free of charge. Everyone in the community, everyone in Continental Ranch, everyone in Tucson, I have been told that it's the only stop in Tucson, so it could be a busy day. But set aside time on the 15th of March to come and learn about Wreaths Across America, looking at their exhibit. If you've not ever been at the cemetery, and I advertised it for the Flag Day. It also happens Christmas time, holiday time for Wreaths Across America. So there's information in that flyer about that. Welcome to new attendees or people that are returning. Are there new people here that have not been here or that would like to introduce themselves? I know one.
I'm Dave Lowe, former Air Force.
Thank you, David, and welcome. Anybody else? I know there's other people here.
Michael Longnecker, former U.S. Navy.
And doing welcome. Anybody else? We're here laughing. John Robinson, County Security Agency.
I'm here, Bob Silvani, Snowbird, St. Paul, Minnesota. We've been right, so great to be back.
Anybody else?
want to cheat anybody. Ability to become famous. Okay, is there anything else for the good of the cause?
I'd like to make 2 points. These shirts are not just for veterans people. They're for anybody in Sunflower, and recently when we had a table to sell them, people felt that it had to be a veteran shirt. So if somebody just bought 2 shirts that says bocce, and somebody else has one for pickleball. It's for everybody. Our supplier also gave us a gift of these hats. We have 5 of them here. We paid nothing for them, and we'll sell it to you at the regular price for $10 directly to our treasurer today, if you're interested. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Sell, sell, sell. Okay, if there's nothing else. Eric.
I just wanted to let everybody know that all of this information that was presented today, everything they've given to me will be on the webpage. There'll be a shortcut to it on our main page. And you can get all of the advanced information that he said is available. Everything he gave me will be out there, so you can get to all the shortcuts and all of this.
Thank you, Larry. Larry does a fantastic job of keeping our website up to date and keeping everything, keeping us informed about just about everything, what's happening at the VA, what the monthly newsletter is on, all that sort of stuff. So if you have not used our website and you have questions about anything VA related, please go on the website and figure out the answers to your questions. If you can't figure out how to get onto the website, it's really very easy. Give me a call and I'll talk you through it. Okay? Anything else? We're adjourned.